Welcome back to the Authentic Society. I'm Jayme.
I'm Maddie.
If you didn't know, now you do. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about things we've learned from our parents, good and bad, what we've taken with us to adulthood,
and what we're leaving behind.
So buckle up. This is about to be a good one. Mm-hmm. Obviously, your parents have a lot of big stuff going right now. So I think people will be very interested in this episode. But
yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think that first off, when you get into adulthood, especially parenthood, you don't realize how much your parents have influenced your life.
Well, yeah, they're our core makeup.
I saw, actually, no, I was reading in that one of the parenting books I have, The Whole Brain Child. They talk about how you're essentially your child's frontal lobe.
Interesting.
For like the first 25 years.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
It's scary.
It is scary. It also is a little humbling when you think about it that way.
Right.
You're in charge of helping them learn and mirror emotional regulation.
Well, and our parents teach us your core values.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So
you talked about your mom teaching you hard work.
Yes. Which people took the wrong way, but yes.
That's okay.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that your parents really are what your makeup is.
Yeah. Good and bad.
Good and bad. And they teach us, along with the faith that you're growing up in, sometimes politically, sometimes, when your morals,
mm-hmm.
Your worth ethic. I mean, they really teach you all of that starting young, or they don't teach you that.
And I think that relationships that you have, like parent-like relationships, can teach you that. So my grandma was heavily involved in my childhood, and she taught me a lot.
Yeah, adult relationships that shape you, because it does take a village.
Yeah. What do you think are some core values your parents took? Good ones that you took with you.
Good ones. So my dad taught me that the ability to make people laugh is a really good quality to have. My dad is like the goofball and has this really crazy ability to make people like laugh and be a goofball and not take himself too seriously. And so I think I would like to think that he gave me that, is to not take, I don't get embarrassed very easily. And I'm really happy for that. Mm-hmm. Even though he did embarrass me a lot as a kid, it did teach me that life's not that serious. No one's looking at you.
They're more concerned about themselves.
Right. Don't get embarrassed.
And everybody remembers how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And if you can make them laugh, A, that's an icebreaker. B, they're going to remember laughing with you and having a good time.
Taylor Swift once said, being kind is a really good legacy to leave behind.
That is true.
And I'd like to think that making people laugh is a really good legacy to leave behind. If I can do anything, I would love to make people laugh and just feel goofy.
Would you ever do stand-up?
My mom and sister tell me all the time I could do stand-up. Dylan thinks I'm more of a goofy comedian than I am like nailing jokes.
Oh, okay. You don't quite get the punchline.
I get the punchline. I think I'm hilarious. I don't know if other people get my punchline. And then for my mom, she taught me really how to be independent. My mom holds a lot of qualities I don't think I hold.
Really?
Yeah.
Like what?
She's very kind, and she let go.
You don't think you're kind?
I think I'm kind, but I think...
You just quoted a Taylor Swift quote.
I know. I think she's just so kind.
Your mom is?
Yeah.
Do you think she's too kind? Sometimes.
But she lets things just go. She's like, life's too short. Let it go. And then I think I would like to think that I get my kindness from her and the ability to have a lot of empathy for people. She has a lot of empathy for a lot of people. She always is trying to... I don't think
we have enough in today.
She's always trying to play the devil's advocate.
That's good.
Which can be annoying, but also I think we need more of that, is to look at other people's perspectives.
I think we're so wrapped up in our own. That's like where we were talking about comparison the other day. Everybody's so wrapped up in their own stuff instead of showing empathy for other people, like mom shaming and stuff like that.
Right. What do you get from your parents? Good core values.
I should have thought about this beforehand. My mom is extremely kind too, and like almost to a fault. And I think I didn't get that from her, but I would love to have that from her.
You don't think you're kind? I'll ask you the same question.
I think I am a little bit more blunt than she is. So I think that my mom is kind to the point.
That for both of us.
My mom is kind to a point of almost probably being taken advantage of, I think, sometimes. And I'm not. I would venture to say I don't take it advantage of unless I know that I'm being taken advantage of and I don't care. Usually it's like by a sibling or something. But I think hard work. My mom works really hard. She worked really hard when I was growing up to get her college degree while she was raising 6 kids, and she worked full time. So that
my mom also got her nursing degree when she was raising my sister and I. So that's hard work. Good work.
It is hard.
Ethic.
Yeah. From my dad, I think I got like, I don't know that I have charisma, but I'm able to talk to anybody. And if you meet my dad, not knowing his history, he's very charismatic.
My dad is too.
Yeah.
I get that from my dad, to be goofy and funny and to like be able to talk to a wall.
Yeah. I don't know that he's goofy and funny, but he's very charismatic.
It's interesting that our parents mirror each other. Like what we get from them.
Yeah.
Like we get the kindness and the empathy from our mothers, and we get the outgoing, charismatic parts from our fathers.
Yeah. I think my dad's a problem solver most of the time, historically. And I think that that is something that I like, is I can problem solve. I don't know that I would solve problems the way that he did, but there's always a solution. And that
good or bad.
Good or bad. But it's like, okay, so when there's like a worst case scenario, I can usually like, or something like is making me anxious, I'll usually go, okay, worst case scenario. And I'll go and I'll think through that. Like, okay, here's a worst case scenario. How would I resolve worst case scenario? And then I'll talk myself down. And I think that ability to think, okay, here's worst case scenario, was from my dad.
Yeah. But do you also feel like hindsight, maybe always thinking about the worst case scenario is because there was a lot of worst case scenarios?
Okay, it's funny, Caleb and I were just talking about this. Parent, like making promises to our kids that we can't keep is like one of my pet peeves. Like, we don't do that. And it bothers me when people do it to my kids, because my family was a best case scenario. So it's probably where I learned worst case scenario. And there was a lot of letdown because it was never fulfilled. Mm-hmm. And so that's something that like Caleb and I talk about a lot. We don't make promises to the kids unless we know for a fact we're going to keep them, unless it's like an emergency or some really major unforeseen circumstance. But we just don't.
Yeah, well, and that can be your parents ultimately gave you that.
Yeah.
Is they taught you what not to do, is to make promises that you can't keep.
Yeah, there was a lot of letdown. And so I think that trying not to give my kids that.
What kind of traditions?
What traditions do we keep?
Yeah, from your childhood.
Okay, so Christmas is a really weird. Was it weird for you when you and Dylan got married? Did you guys do it different?
My Christmases started, I think, being a little weird when my parents got divorced, because they got separated when I was in high school. So my Christmases have never been exactly the same since. Okay.
What were they like before?
So really, you had a really big family. I did not have a big extended family, and I only had one sister. So my dad's parents, my Juju and granddad, would come down, and they would, because they were both school teachers, and they spent the whole 2 weeks with us.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, they spent their summers with us. They were very, we would go up there for summer. But so it would be them, my dad, my mom, me, and my sister. It was always the 6 of us for every holiday, because my mom's parents lived in Florida. So we only saw them like once or twice a year.
Do your mom Does your mom and your dad's parents get along still?
Well, my papa is passed away.
Oh.
And then are you talking about like with each other? Like my grandparents with my grandparents?
No, with your mom.
Oh, my Juju and granddad love my mom.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. Wholeheartedly. She's family.
That's why.
To them. Yeah.
Do you spend that much time with somebody? I feel like.
Oh, yeah. A lot of vacations and stuff were just, with my dad working, it was me, my Juju, my mom, and me and my sister. No, my Juju and granddad love my mom and were devastated when my parents divorced. I mean, it was hard. It was really hard because they view my mom as a daughter that they never had. So it was always just the six of us for Christmas. So very small. And I love that. I miss it a lot, having that. Dylan has a bigger family than I do. And so that was a big adjustment, is to
all the aunts and uncles coming over for the holidays.
Yeah. Like, well, Thanksgiving, I mean, he has a huge extended family.
Really?
Yeah. They go to the church and we eat at the church. Dylan's laughing. It's such a Southern thing. Yeah.
There's that many family members?
Yeah.
Okay. We may have done that, but my parents were polygamous.
And then, his regular family on Thanksgiving, his mom makes us go around and like everybody opens their gifts in birth order.
You on Thanksgiving?
No, on Christmas.
Oh, you said Thanksgiving. I was like, wait, what?
So that takes up forever. And it's different.
Okay.
And usually on Christmas, I only see my mom and my sister and me and Dylan. So small.
Real small.
Yeah. What about you?
So Caleb's family grew up and Caleb's dad's a preacher. Or was a preacher. So they would get ready for the day before they ever touched presents. And like my family, you stayed in your PJs.
All day. Same.
All day. And
Same.
So that was something that we implemented in like now with my kids. We get up. We have 2 kids. 3 now. But it's like we don't spend, my parents, Caleb, I used to like prep Caleb. We're going to open presents past lunch. And Caleb was like, okay. And we really did. And we don't do that now because there's not 18 of us. But we let the kids go free for all. We put all their presents together. And I'm like, just open them. Make sure you say thank you to anybody who's close by. So usually they'll be like, Dad, like accidentally they'll be like, Dad, who's this from? Or Mom, who's this from?
That's the same though. For like growing up, my sister and I, we just had a free for all.
Yeah.
And it was just my grandparents and my parents. So we were the only 2 kids. So we just
did it.
You just did it. And then you spent the day in your pajamas playing all day.
Yeah. And that's what we did. We put, like, I usually do a puzzle and that kind of stuff. So that was really a tradition that we kept specifically from my side of the family. Because Caleb's family, they get up, they eat, they do, like, they read the birth of Christ and all that stuff. And then they open presents and they take family pictures and then they open presents. And I'm like, you get ready for the day on Christmas? But a lot of people do.
My little self could have never. I was up at like the crack of dawn.
Yeah. Ready to open your presents.
Ready to. Is that what your kids do? Do they come like knock on your door at 5 a.m.?
Yeah. Santa's been here. Mom, I went downstairs and I looked. I'm like, but it's also fun being the parent giving the gift because they get so excited.
It's like you get to relive a part of your childhood.
Yeah.
That was gone for a while because when you're an adult, the magic of Christmas isn't there.
I always tell people like holidays become so fun again when you have kids.
I'm sure, especially this age, like Axel and Evie's age.
Yeah. And my mom says that too. She's like, I love being at your house for holidays. Like we just did Halloween. And like Halloween when you're like 13 is not as fun, but like Axel went with his little friends and we all went around the neighborhood and they ran and they were laughing the whole time. And I don't remember having that much fun on Halloween in ages.
Yeah.
You know?
But I'm sure you did at one point.
Yeah. And like one of my siblings, we totally did. But now they're like my kids. It's like you kind of lose the fun of it unless you're like at a party drinking with your college friends or whatever. But like they have so much fun.
Yeah. We would always trick or treat with my godparents, and her kids that are like my cousins, and we used to have a ball. It was just so fun.
Yeah. Okay, money. How do you manage money compared to your parents?
I would like to think more cohesively.
Your parents didn't like.
No, they did, but I think they argued about money a lot.
Really?
So I think not arguing about it and kind of being on the same page with money is really important.
I think that we inherit so much of our thought process around money from our parents.
What about you? What's your thought process on money?
It's very different now than when I first got married. So my dad always chose to get rich quick scheme, almost always. And that was something like, it was such a foreign thought to Caleb. And I remember like explaining some ideas to him and he's like, no. And like, so we kind of like you build wealth, you build, stability with your finances, you know? And so we did a lot of like work on that together because, poverty mindset is such an interesting thing, especially when it comes to money, because like when we got our tax returns when I was younger, my parents immediately spent it on something. And Caleb's family were both educated and they did not. They saved it. They saved every penny that they could. I mean, they were broke. They were debt phobic. Like they did as much as they could. And so it was very different than my parents. So it was really hard to kind of like work through that. But I remember saying to Caleb about 7 years ago, and I was like, you know, what's weird is like, it's realizing that there is no get rich quick, you know, because
no, there's not.
And I think that, and I knew it, but I think like actually saying it out loud, it was such a weird concept.
Before the show, did you grow up poor?
Yeah. Before the show, we were very poor. I think my dad made decent money, but you have 15 kids.
Right.
Like a lot of kids, you know?
They might have been fine if they had like three or four.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But with 15, you have to be massively rich to be able to.
And there were people, we could get into this. We should talk about cults one day. But there were people in the church who were massively rich. But I remember
from like quick money schemes.
No, they were like contractors, like commercial contractors.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, like they were the commercial contractors. So they built their houses for super cheap.
Did your parents from when you were younger until really the show, did they always have like the same job and career?
No. So my dad was always in sign sales. And Christine usually did like stuff here or there. My mom, she worked for the state a lot of the time. So she worked for DCFS, CPS, whatever you want to call it. She was a secretary for a long time when I was a kid. And then after she got her degree, she actually got in with the state in unemployment in Utah. And she did that for a couple of years. So
always state jobs, which they have a lot of benefits.
Mm-hmm. It was, yeah. It was.
How are you putting all these kids on insurance?
I don't know. That's a great question.
But you guys you and your siblings,
we were, and then we weren't. So my mom was actually in between jobs. She worked for a temp agency for a little while after she got her degree in accounting. And she had just left the temp agency and started with the state. And my appendix ruptured and it was an emergency surgery. So it wasn't on anybody's insurance. So my mom had to pay that off for a while.
That's kind of scary to think that there was that many kids and no insurance.
There was insurance.
But not consistently?
I think it was inconsistent. But this was before Obamacare. Like this was before you had to have insurance. Like people paid out of pocket, you know?
Yeah. What about dental?
My mom's kids had it. I think Christine's kids were on. I don't want to misquote here because I was a kid. I didn't pay attention to that stuff. But I'm pretty sure Christine's kids were on my dad's insurance.
I guess you just don't think about that stuff until you grow up and you get a career or you have kids and you're like,
I don't think you
wow.
think about it a ton until you're like, you have kids.
Well, but then you go, wow, that's 15 kids on somebody's insurance. Do insurance and policies have maxes on kids?
I don't think so.
Do you know what I mean, though? And then
Yeah.
that's a lot of children to think about. Dental insurance, health insurance, yearly checkups. That's really off a tangent. But
well, and that's why I think like, so people often ask me about like the kids that we have. And I'm like, the thing is like, we take very, like before we have children, we are very mindful about it. And I do think that there is a point where you have to be considering the children that you have.
Right. But a lot of quick money schemes necessarily don't always are like, oh, this is insurance.
Oh.
Like a career can give you sometimes.
Yes.
Like a job.
Yes. So my dad was a sign salesman, but he was always doing something. Even after the show started. They did a lot of investments with people and stuff like that. And I remember just being like, interesting. But like Caleb and I, so like that was something that we really had to talk about and like learn and communicate about. Save money and, you know, that kind of stuff.
Longevity.
Like build it, pay stuff, that kind of stuff.
Build a life, not just
robbing Peter to pay Paul, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Building a life is very different than necessarily getting quick cash. You know, building a livelihood.
Yeah.
You know,
and you start out starving. When Caleb and I first moved to North Carolina, like we were broke.
Yeah. I think a lot of married couples start out broke. Me and Dylan did.
Yeah.
We were broke. We were barely making ends meet.
Yeah.
Living together.
So, and I think, so we like, there was a lot of stuff that like, that was a wake up call.
So do you wish that your parents had taught you to handle finances a little better?
I don't know, because my mom is relatively good with money. And that's why it's so weird to me, because you'd think, I don't know. I do think that like there is stuff that, I don't know. It's like when we were talking about kids, like you set the tone of your home. That was like something that really set us up, you know? My mom used to do movie nights with us, and we used to do like where we'd go rent a movie and we'd get all the junk food and we'd watch the movie. And I do that with my kids, and it's like their favorite thing.
That's sweet.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
What do you do?
Well, I don't have children. I'm trying to think of a tradition that I keep.
Did you all Black Friday shop?
No, my mom's not a shopper. My mom's not girly at all. My mom is, like you would call it, very granola. Like she's a nurse.
But you're like we need to do an episode, because I was explaining to you like you're a silky mom and I'm a granola mom.
Yeah. So she bikes. She just ran a 5K last weekend. She's done half marathons.
Do you run with her?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. What do I look like running with her?
Okay, so
I would die.
My family is planning a 5K run for Thanksgiving in Greenville. The ones that are coming to town. And Caleb was like, I did not marry this family.
No.
You guys used to be the people that watched the Macy's Day Parade, and you did not go run a 5K. And he's like, are you going to do it? And I was like, I'll probably take the kids and walk it. I was like, are you going to come? And he's like, absolutely not.
No. Well, my mom doesn't do 5K on Thanksgiving. We were not a 5K family, and neither is Dylan's family. And for that, I am forever blessed, because you will never catch me dead running a 5K on Thanksgiving. Okay. I am going to have.
It's only 3 miles.
Only. No,
I'm like an hour of walking.
I'm popping a mimosa on Thanksgiving. That's the kind of family I am in. But yeah, my mom's very different than me. I didn't get the girly. She calls me to help her with fashion stuff.
Oh, really?
And to help shop. I didn't get, and my sister's not like that either. I'm
How
very,
did you?
I don't know because my Juju's not like it either. My Juju
That's
likes
funny.
to shop, but she's very like, she's not very girly.
I can tell that because I'm not girly either. And I can tell we're in for it with Evie. Like I tell Caleb, I'm really having to embrace. So Evie's favorite thing to do right now is her nails every Sunday night. And
Oh
I
my
am
God, we
like,
do. We have that in common.
yeah,
I do my
I'm
nails
like,
every Sunday.
I think I've had a manicure. I've had a manicure one time since I've been married because I bite my nails. And so I bite the nails off. And so I'm like, why would I paint them? And Caleb and Evie, it's like she wants the whole. So I had to buy the whole because I'm that mom. This is where the frivolous spending comes in. But so I bought the whole kit for her. And she eats it up. It's her favorite thing.
Tell Evie, Kay, that she can come and she can do her nails with me and we would live it up. Let her spend a day with me. She would
love it.
We would have so much fun.
When Isabel lived with us, because Isabel's like that. Like she's more like fashion, trendy,
Girly, yeah.
girly. I don't know that she's like really girly. She's like
just more in like
academia. If I had to describe her, like
Yeah.
I'd be like she's light academia. Like she likes fashion trends. She's very trendy, but she's not excessive.
Yeah. I get what you're
kind
saying.
of like I would venture to say you.
Yeah.
But yeah, Evie loved it.
Oh.
But I am not. And
did you guys do Black Friday shopping?
Oh yeah.
I never had done it.
Really?
I not until I was a teenager. No, that was not a thing.
As a teenager, Christine would take us.
No, yeah, but they don't do Black Friday shopping. That's a whole nother tangent. But they don't do it like they used to.
No.
Have you ever looked
up
3
days before? It starts the Monday before.
Have you ever looked up the Black Friday shopping deaths? They have a whole website for it on how many people die on Black Friday.
Oh my gosh.
The number has substantially gone down over the years.
Oh, I believe it.
Mm-hmm. People used to die.
I remember being at Walmart one time on Black Friday and they rang the bell that it was time. And these people were diving on top of these toy castles. And I remember thinking, somebody's going to die here.
I think a good Black Friday like that would bring our nation back together. Okay.
Where your life is literally in front, like flashing before your eyes over commercialism.
I don't think people would be arguing like they are if we just all got it out on Black Friday.
You could just duke it out, just start a
over
fight
a
with somebody.
flat screen TV. That's what people need more of.
Oh my gosh, they don't. They don't.
All right, that's our tangent. That is our ramble. Going back to the things that we took from our childhood into adulthood. What about the differences and feeling like you were going to disappoint your parents with your life? Did you feel like living differently than them, or how did you take the things from your childhood and say, but I'm still going to live differently?
Oh, dude, that needs to be a whole episode.
It does.
So I knew when I was 13 that I didn't want to be a plural marriage. Like I knew probably before that, but I could vocalize it at 13. It's like, nah, not doing that. So I think that obviously when you grow up in a plural family and in a cult or a church or whatever you want to call it, I call it a cult, that literally your salvation depends on you living plural marriage. I remember being completely content to go to hell. Like I was like, we're all going to be there. Like,
I'll meet you there. I'll save you a seat.
Yeah. It was like all of like and a lot of like, because I didn't want to, I was pretty much the rebel child. Like I hung out with the class of rebel children from this cult. And I think I just was content to go to hell.
Hindsight.
Yeah.
You are living a much more faithfully devoted life.
Yes. So so right now, Caleb and I are very devout in our faith now. And I think that is very different because, well, first off, that what I grew up in is not the Christianity.
Faith. Yeah, it's not.
It's not at all. And I've actually had cousins say to me, like, how could you trust a God after everything we went through? And their lives were very different than mine. I will say that. And I'm like, first off, I think you have to start from where I was, where it was like, I'm content to go to hell here, you know? And then it's like, okay, is there a God? Or do you believe? And Ginger Duggar calls it disentangling, not deconstruction, disentangling. I think there was a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
So again, I didn't grow up super religious. We grew up Presbyterian, which is Christianity. And that is more the lax side than Baptist.
We're non-denomination.
Yeah. And, you know, we would go, I remember really young, we would go to church. But as older and stuff, and my parents worked a lot on the weekends and stuff, we didn't. I would say my mom and dad had different viewpoints on that. They really had a lot of different viewpoints on a lot of
everything.
Yeah, politically, with their faith. And my dad, I think, is, way more Christian based. And my mom is more of like, she believes in a higher power, but
agnostic,
but doesn't really believe in a, religion necessarily. Mm-hmm. And I think I fall really in the middle. Like, I would like to Christian. I'm very spiritual. But I don't practice a lot of those fundamental values. And I think I get that way because I was a very good mix
of both of them.
So, I think that's what I've brought into my adulthood, is that I kind of fall in the middle on a lot of things because I had two parents that were very different.
Opposites ends.
So I've gotten both of it, when it comes to religion or politics. So
do you think it helped you in life?
Fall in the middle?
Yeah, to see both sides of the spectrum.
I do. I make my own. I really do feel like I make my own choices because I didn't have two parents that were telling me one way was the right way.
Yeah.
I had two parents that both thought different ways were the right way. And it made me be very, I think, independent in my thought processes. And I really am the type of person that I really do. I'm very fascinated with other religions. I think they're beautiful. I had a lot of friends that had a lot of different religions. I had a friend that I went and stayed with in New Jersey who was Jewish, and I went and stayed with her for a week, and they were...
It's very different.
They, like, her mom didn't use the car on the weekends because they walked mass, and I thought it was so interesting. It's so fascinating. And so I really love to view all different. And my parents are very much like that, where they kind of...
all.
They taught me to, make my own decisions and be very independent in my thinking.
Yeah.
Which I'm thankful for, because I think a lot of people where I grew up, it wasn't the case. It was very Southern Baptist. And again, my mom wasn't raised in the South. And my dad was raised in the mountains, the western part of NC. So, I am really thankful that even though I was raised in this bubble, I wasn't raised by people in this bubble.
I think that it's interesting so we're not Baptist, but Baptist culture is very interesting.
Well, with raising your kids from what you've taken from your childhood, are you going to allow them to explore other religions? I
welcome questions of, is this for me? Or does God exist? Or those kind of things. Like, I think that it is healthy and it is good to find out for yourself.
Yeah. So
I think you get a lot of problems when you're told your whole life how to believe something and you don't even know who you are.
And out of fear.
Yeah. Oh, the fears tactic is like crazy. I think it served me that I was very anti-conformity and still am. And I think it served me a lot in growing up and finding out who I am and what I want for my kids.
My question is that Caleb grew up in a household where it was okay to be blunt and to speak your mind, and you did not necessarily. Are you going to teach your kids it's okay to grow up and being able to, they can say their opinions kindly and nicely, but it's okay to state an opinion and have one that's different than your parents?
I think so. Yes. Evie already now says stuff, and I have to be like, sometimes we don't say it like that.
Yeah.
Or Axel. So
yeah, but I wonder where you get your bluntness from, because you didn't grow up necessarily. You grew up in a home that was very like passive, where people got their feelings hurt all the time. No offense.
No, people get their feelings hurt a lot, and I think sometimes people take offense to something that there's not something to take offense to.
Do you think that's because you have a big family and there's just more feelings involved?
I think it was a manipulation. I think some, yes. I also think it was a manipulation thing. Here's the thing: is me saying what I think tactfully and nicely when you ask for an opinion shouldn't be offensive. Or when you're vocalizing your opinion, it shouldn't be offensive. If you disagree, that's fine. But you can't be like, that hurt my feelings. I was like, you literally asked for it.
So that's what you're going to give your children, is that as long as they say it nice and tactfully and stuff, they're allowed to have different opinions than you.
Yeah. There's an easier way to be like, your hair looks like shit, versus like, hey, can I fix your hair for you real quick?
Yeah. I got to work on that. Like, if my friends like, do you like this outfit? I'm like, no, it's so ugly.
If it's something that you can't change, first off, unless they're a close friend or family member and they've asked for your opinion, or it's a point of like a boundary or conflict resolution, then that's different. But if it's something that they can't change in the next like minute, what does it matter?
Yeah. I actually saw a teacher on TikTok say that. Is like, if they can't change it in the next 15 seconds, keep it to yourself.
Yes.
So if their shoes untied, you can tell them.
Yeah.
If you don't like their
zippers down,
you don't like their shirt, keep it to yourself. We need to say that as adults.
Yeah.
If you can't, like, for example, people comment on my voice. They think I have a horrible voice.
Wait, what?
I can't change that. You haven't seen those comments?
No, I don't really care.
Somebody said, several said something about my voice, and I'm like, I can't.
Thank you.
I can't change that.
I honestly think that after being in like at 15, being exposed to a public like we were, and people are mean, they say stuff. It's like you just don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Like my hair, for some reason, is a comment, like a topic of conversation. It is like,
it's just stupid when you say it out loud.
Like, but it's like, why do you care so much?
It's so silly to say out loud that people are commenting on my voice or your hair. Like, it's so silly.
No, it is. But like, that's what, so it's like, sometimes it's just like, okay. So that's what I teach my kids.
I also don't think I got that from either of my parents, my thick skin.
I think I got it from, I don't know.
I have thick skin, and I don't think I got that from either of them.
They don't have thick skin.
No. I mean, my mom does more on others, like outside people. She's more sensitive to the fact, like, if I tell her something, like, it will hurt her feelings. My dad, he lets everything get to him.
Well, so one thing that's really hard right now for me is Evie's, she really struggles to like with comparison. So like a perfect example of this, yesterday, Caleb and I both got out of the car on the property to look at something, and they were in the car. And I walked past Evie's window, and I was looking at her, trying to smile at her. And she was looking over at Axel's window where Caleb was walking past, because Axel's on the driver's side. And we get in the car, and Evie's like crying, and we're like, what's wrong? And she's like, you walked past Axel's window and you didn't say hi to me. And I was like, Evie, I walked right past your window. And Caleb was looking at the gate to open the gate. And I was like, I even tried to look at you and you didn't even look at me. So something is like something that I really want to instill in my kids that I don't know if it wasn't when I was a kid is like, you have to be grateful for what you have too. Because if you spend your whole life looking at what other people have and you don't have it, you're going to miss out on all the things you do have.
Did you think you got that from your parents, or do
I think I got that from my mom.
Is to be thankful in the now.
And my grandma is like, we could have it so much worse.
Right.
And there were times where it was bad, and it's like, it could be so much worse.
Well, and that comes with gratitude.
Yeah.
Right. And we have to do a whole
thing on
gratitude because you're really big on that, and I need to be a lot. I think it's a great thing to be big on.
Huge thing. Like, and that's like, I was gonna go on a soapbox, but I'll say that.
We'll move on. We're trying not to ramble.
Okay. So what do you like? Okay. So one thing I think that we should talk about is, as you get older, the move from being your parents' kid to your parents' friend. And when is that appropriate? And when were you?
Oh, this is so good. Okay. My answer will probably be a lot different than yours because my parents divorced and my parents separated at 15. My dad moved out of the house. And so he really wasn't in the picture that much. And when my parents got divorced, my sister went to college. So it went from a 4-person household to a 2-person household, and it was my mom and me. And my mom was going through a really painful divorce and trying to navigate that on her own. We became more of like roommates and friends than it became mother and daughter. And she has apologized to me like so profusely, like, I'm so sorry. Like, you deserve to have a mom and not a friend in those. But she was drowning in her own grief and pain and trying to navigate life for the first time too.
You don't fault
her. Unfortunately, I think that's why I am so independent. From the ages 15 and 18, I was just very independent. I had my own job. I paid for my own gas. I paid for everything on my own, besides obviously my car insurance and my car payment. But I really could come and go as I pleased. You know, there weren't a lot of questions asked. My grades weren't very good. And, you know, in a time when you're kind of like life's unraveling, for both of you, I think we were just trying to make it and survive. But I do think 15 is way too young for your mom to become your friend. I still think you need a mom. And that's from my personal experience.
Have you ever watched Gilmore Girls?
Yes.
Do you like it?
I love Gilmore Girls.
Do you like it now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. I think for me, I desperately needed boundaries and limits. And I didn't have many in that time. And not because my mom is a bad mom, because my mom was struggling in something in her personal life.
You were fed, you were clothed, you had a house.
Yes. That's, you know, I called her and if I needed something, you know, I was good in that front. But as far as like being an adult, I became an adult very quickly. And so by the time I got ready for college, I was like,
you're ready.
This is just a thing, you know? And so I think that's why I've always been very independent, because I think I've been independent since I was 15, because I really got to go and do as I please. And it's amazing. I graduated high school my senior year. I had like 89 consecutive days missed.
How does that legally happen? Isn't there truancy laws?
Well, you know how when you miss a period, so we had 4 periods, and you miss one, it counts as a day.
No, that's not how it was in my school.
So it counted as like, I missed 89 periods, I guess, my whole high school, not days. So that's something. And yeah, I think a good age is, I don't know. I just know 15 too young. I don't know. What about you?
Like a transition. It's almost like you got to transition into it, because
when was yours?
Probably young too.
Well, you gave birth young.
I gave birth young.
And I feel like
I grew up really young.
I feel like when you get married and you start having kids, that's a good transition time too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it needs to happen a little bit closer to that.
Close, but they were still like hard boundaries, you know? My mom didn't care as much growing up. My dad wasn't around very much. So it was kind of like when he was there, it was kind of, we acted differently.
Same.
But I think my mom and I were, first off, I was the oldest girl, and my mom was in a turbulent relationship. And so I think even at a young age that there was a lot of like leaning on me and friendship, but there was still like hard boundaries. I think, yeah, maybe when I moved to Salt Lake or Logan out for college, it was like, I think when I turned 18, when I was 18, which is like right before, when it was during my senior year, she just like, all bets are off.
Yeah.
She was just like,
well, and I also think the transition from friends to parent is a lot different for father and daughters.
So it's interesting because this is something Caleb and I talk about with his family, because it took his dad a long time. And I think sometimes he still struggles.
Like, I'm a grown man.
Yeah. Caleb's a baby, so maybe that too. But like, I think it's just an interesting thing to watch. And I think about it with my own children. Like, there's still respect there. The lead singer of Skillet, John Cooper. Do you know who he is? Dylan, do you know who he is? Skillet? No, you don't listen to that band. He was talking about how his son was calling him dude, and he had to be like, I'm still your dad, dude. Like, because he was
I call
15,
my mom
16.
Sherry.
Really?
Uh-huh. I have forever. So does my sister. We did it at first. My mom, patient woman. Look at Dylan. He's laughing because he thinks it's crazy that I call her Sherry. And so does it bothers so many people. It does not bother.
You call her Sherry to her face?
Yes, all the time.
Mom?
Sherry.
But do you ever call her mom? Oh.
Yeah. So I never transitioned out of calling her mama.
Oh, okay.
So as an adult, when we're in public, calling her mom is weird. I've never called her mom. I've always called her mama. And so in a like an adult setting in like public, it's so weird to yell mama. So I either call her mother or Sherry.
Okay. When I'm out and about with my mom, I'll usually say Janelle. No, but she won't listen if you say mom.
So no, I call Sherry.
That's
hey,
fine.
Sherry, what's up? Girl, it bothers so many people. It does not bother her. Me and my sister started doing it as like a gag to like irritate her. And now it's just something we do. But my mom is a very patient woman, and it doesn't bother her, but it bothers so many people. They think it's so disrespectful. Yeah. So biggest takeaways from your childhood that you want to bring in with adulthood?
I think that a lot of people think you should regret your childhood. And there is stuff that I might change, or that I can look back now as an adult and be like, that probably shouldn't happen. Or there was also really good things that I love. There was good memories. I loved being with my siblings.
I refuse to spend my whole adult life angry at my childhood.
Yes.
I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not. It's, you have to, it is what it is. No matter anger or hurt will ever change the child you had. There were some bad parts. Like you said, there were some good parts, and it made me who I am.
Yeah, it made me who I am.
And I think
it made me the parent I am today.
Forgiving that thing.
One of my siblings always says, our parents did the best they could with what they had in their toolbox, and it's our job to do better with our toolbox.
Absolutely. I would love to know, you guys, in the comments, what you brought from each of your parents in your childhood, good and bad.
Yeah. What was your take it and what was your leave it?
Yeah, that's a good one. Take it or leave it. We will talk to you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.